Netanyahu is telling the Mossad to potentially compromise, if not people currently working there, since they've said these guys are retired, but they are potentially compromising sources and agencies. But he's the boss. If the prime minister tells you to tell a story in public, then you tell the story in public, and you suck up the cost.
Dressed entirely in black with distorted voices, two Mossad agents have been on television to explain how the attack was carried out this last September during a 60-minute interview on CBS in America. One of the agents, who goes by the name Michael, explained how the operation was carried out.
A walkie-talkie was a weapon, just like a bullet or a missile or a mortar.
So a walkie-talkie bomb.
A walkie-talkie bomb. Inside the battery, there is an explosive device made in Israel.
At Mossad?
Yes. Obviously, they didn't know that they were buying it from Israel. We create a pretend world. We are a global production company. We write the screenplay. We're the directors. We're the producers. We're the main actors. The world is our stage.
I read a transcript, or a cut-down transcript, of that CBS interview on the CBS News website earlier today. It is extraordinary, the lengths that they went to go to in order to put these weapons as close as they possibly could to their enemies. Let's speak to Dr. Lynette Nusbacher, who's a former British Army intelligence officer. Lynette, thank you very much for coming on. You don't get this very often, do you? Special agents breaking cover to talk about one of the most daring operations, perhaps in Israel's history.
Yeah, intelligence officers, especially operational people, are never, ever going to talk about what they did on this kind of operation unless either they have gone over to the other side, which clearly is not the case here, or if they've been sanctioned to do it. If they've been told, we want to put a message out there, and we want you to tell, in this case, CBS 60 Minutes, a story about how brilliant this operation was. So when I watched that film, what kept coming up in my mind was they are giving me a really carefully constructed narrative that they spent 10 years preparing this, that they were using walkie-talkies in the first instance so that when Hezbollah operatives were on operations, they could be attacked. And then they went one better, and they started to manufacture these rigged explosive pagers so that they could get Hezbollah commanders at any time and place.
I'm sorry to interrupt. There doesn't appear to be any doubt whatsoever that these people are who they say they are.
Of course. Yeah, I think that makes perfect sense. I'm sure, CBS, reputable news organization, 60 Minutes, reputable. So this is solid stuff, except remember that they are telling us this for a reason. The Israeli security apparatus does not go talking to the media for no reason at all. So they don't do it just to big themselves up.
What's your theory as to why they might be doing it now, then?
Benjamin Netanyahu is in court 3 days a week. He is testifying in a corruption scandal, his corruption scandal. His wife has just been accused of witness tampering. Netanyahu just went a couple of minutes ago in front of the Israeli parliament in their equivalent of prime minister's questions. And he made a speech in which he said there is some progress on hostage negotiations. Well, some progress is not filling people with joy as we come into the Hanukkah holiday in Israel. Netanyahu needs people to think about him as the strategic genius who is beating the Iranians, not as a corrupt prime minister, not as a prime minister who promised security and can't deliver.
But isn't he potentially, by doing this, compromising the security of Mossad agents and their methods?
Yeah, of course. Netanyahu is telling the Mossad to potentially compromise, if not people currently working there, since they've said these guys are retired, but they are potentially compromising sources and agencies. But he's the boss. If the prime minister tells you to tell a story in public, then you tell the story in public and you suck up the cost. Netanyahu has got to deal with this judicial independence issue. He's got cabinet members going rogue and talking about settling Gaza. He really needs people to focus on Netanyahu, the strategic genius, on the Israeli government as a successful security operation, because otherwise people start paying attention to the wrong things.
Dr. Lynette Nusbacher, former British Army intelligence officer, thank you for that context. It is certainly very useful to understand what has happened and why it has happened, but it is also a fascinating story in itself. I do urge you to go and look it up on the CBS News website, see if you can find that transcript of those Mossad agents talking about how they got those walkie-talkies and pagers very close to the bodies of Hezbollah agents, causing such death and devastation in September this year. The time now is 12 minutes to 5.
The Assembly will hear an address by His Excellency Benjamin Netanyahu, Prime Minister of the State of Israel. I request protocol to escort His Excellency and invite him to address. Order, please. Ladies and gentlemen, order. Order, please.
And for the world outside this hall, we are winning. But after I heard the lies and slanders leveled at my country by many of the speakers at this podium, ladies and gentlemen, the curse of October 7th began when are here with us today. I ask you to stand up. At our towns and cities, at our civilians, at our children. 2 weeks later, the Iran-backed Houthi. That alliance would include the United States, Israel, Kurd, and Arab peace partners, Saudi Arabia, and others who choose the blessing of terror and war. And now I have a question. I pose that question to you. What choice will its phrase? Israel will not go gently into that river. We will never. And the reason is simple. Because if Hamas stays in power, it will regroup, rearm,